I found new love, which has continued to this day. Hello everybody, I'm Kelly, also known as Sir Rainbow Skychild, and recently I decided to run away from all of my problems. I ended up in far and distant lands, and while I was there, I got up to all sorts of things. Like cutting out one of my oldest, closest and best friends, falling in love with someone who's never going to feel the same, standing butt naked in a very dark and very isolated forest, living one of my longest and dearest dreams, and doing shadow work so severe I ugly cried every single day for a week straight. But before I can tell you all of that, I need to tell you about the problem I ran away from, and that in and of itself is a story. After the longest and most difficult year of my life, I just wanted to have a nice New Year's Eve, but my ex decided that he was going to be a cunt that day, so we got in an argument and then he beat the shit out of me so badly I spent New Year's Day in hospital making sure that none of my bones were broken and that there wasn't nerve damage in my eye because all I could see out of it was my own blood. Rest assured, the trash took itself out that same day and that was the last I saw of him. I'm okay, and I live to tell the tale, and I suppose in a lot of ways that's all that matters. But for weeks after that, I was the most broken I have ever been. And all I wanted to do in the aftermath of that was just not be here. I literally wanted to run away from the pain. A couple of days after the trauma of New Year's Day, I was sitting with some friends and I told them that I really just wanted to break away from it all and that I was considering going to Cape Town because it was relatively affordable to get to, I have lots of family there that I could stay with, and it was far away enough from Johannesburg that I could distance myself from everything that went down. Because as they say, you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. One of those friends, Bestie, the chase to my Chelsea, then announced that he was actually going to house sit for some friends of his in Cape Town in February and that he could definitely arrange for me to accompany him. Excuse the terrible quality, I have to use my phone and it's very damaged, but I am at the airport because I am going on an adventure. Okay, bye. As much as I wanted to vlog while I was there, I just didn't have the heart to do much of anything. So most of my stay there was spent day drinking, lazing on the comfiest couch you could ever imagine, watching cartoons, and feeling sorry for myself. In the moments that I could push the depression aside, I made a lot of content with Bestie. I explored Simonstown on 2 different occasions, one of which involved staying there overnight by myself and going to Boulders Beach so that I could be around the penguins, my favorite animal. And I also got kidnapped by my cousin and ended up on the other side of the city, surrounded by family for the first time in a very long time, and it was wonderful. Cape Town gave me a lot of time to reflect, and while I did that, staring at the mountains in the distance, it dawned on me that I really wasn't happy. And more importantly, that I hadn't been in a very long time. It made me wonder if I would ever truly be happy in Johannesburg because there was nothing here for me and no one waiting for me to return. There was nothing to look forward to when I got home. But being in Cape Town allowed me to relax for the first time in more than a year. It's been a very relaxed trip. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time looking at these mountains, because I do like these mountains a lot. We are convinced that these mountains are up to something. Because they act sus. They change. Yeah, that's just gonna make us both sound insane, but like, I swear, they change. These are not the same mountains that were here when I arrived here. Like, every time we look, there's something different about them. Like that one, which apparently also has a forest on it now. I don't think I've ever slept this much in my life. I think the last time I slept this much, I was still in the womb. I also remembered something important. Something so important to me, I made it the tagline of the book I self-published almost 10 years ago. Sometimes running away is the answer. And that was a feeling that I just could not shake. Even though I really loved being in Cape Town, it just simply wasn't far enough away. Another thing that happened in Cape Town, though, was that on Valentine's Day, I was fucking miserable. Normally, I'm a huge fan of Valentine's Day, and I don't get the people that are so against it. It's cute, it's love, it's a celebration of romance, and I'm here for it, but not in 2024. I just could not fucking handle it. I could not stomach all of the love in the air when my heart was still broken and my eye was still wonky from how hard and repeatedly that piece of shit hit me. I would have paid real money for the 14th of February to just not be Valentine's Day this year. And then I remembered that it was also a Finnish friend of mine's birthday, and I could just focus on that and pretend that the rest just didn't exist. So in desperate need to celebrate anything but Valentine's Day, I reached out to this friend after quite some time, and we started chatting again. In fact, more than we usually did. That's gonna be important later. Not long after that, my Cape Town adventure came to a close. I was weary from it, I missed my plants, and the thick mountain air was starting to make my head feel like it had too many thoughts. So as much as I enjoyed my stay there, I could not wait to come back to Johannesburg, so that I could start planning my escape from it. March was some special sort of hell that I had never been to before. It's too long a story to tell in detail, and ultimately it's not all that relevant, so I'm not going to explain everything that went wrong. But to put it simply, both Bestie and I had multiple severe panic attacks and mental breakdowns, and we both somehow ended up in a situation where we had to confront very difficult feelings from very long ago that were rearing their ugly head again. Two completely different situations, but two very, very similar ones. It was a time for both of us, and I shan't go into more detail than that, but I will say that this particular song over here is a remnant of that time, and I personally feel it's one of my best, so if you care to listen to it, go for it. And if you do, let me know what you think. I barely remember April, partly because nothing interesting happened in April, and partly because I was so busy working my ass off so that I could get out of here. I had a master plan. First, I was going to go to Spain, a country I had never been to before as a fuck you to my anxiety and panic attacks. I had an easy way in because one of my best friends lived there, and I would be returning the favor because she spontaneously came to visit me in South Africa last year. Then, I would go to Finland, because it's Finland. And I am obsessed with Finland, and of course I was going to go to Finland. But actually the real reason why I wanted to go to Finland was because it is my favorite country. I knew that I would be happy there, and I just wanted to feel even one teeny tiny little shred of joy. And then I would close off this adventure by going to the Netherlands, my home away from home. I was going there for one reason and one reason only, and that was to cry about everything. Long and hard, until no more tears came out. I wanted to ugly cry, where no one could see me, no one knew me, and I wouldn't have to save face. Part of my master plan was also to become a digital nomad and fund the trip as I went. So I fully intended to stay in Europe for as long as I could possibly justify, but I eventually settled on staying in each country for about 3 weeks each, and staying in Europe as a whole for about 2 months. But it wasn't quite so simple, because I have a South African passport, and Schengen visas are a thing. So originally, I was going to apply for the visa from the Spanish embassy, but to do that, I would have had to prove my entire itinerary, and for that, I needed accommodation in Finland. In the Netherlands, I was just going to stay in an Airbnb, but because I was paying things off slowly but surely, there wouldn't have been enough money to do the same thing in Finland, so I had to find a workaround. So I reached out to all of my Finnish friends, and I asked if any one of them was willing to let me use their address for visa purposes, but that by the time I got to Finland, I would have made another plan for accommodation, be it Airbnb or a hotel or whatever. One of them replied but didn't really know what to do, the others all ignored me, and only one actually volunteered. And that one person was Valentine's Day Man. I told you it was gonna be important later, who from this point onwards will be known as Ganymede, because I need to give code names to the people involved in this story. So anyway, Ganymede was kind enough to tell me that I didn't just have to use his address to get the visa, I could legitimately stay with him for free. And then later on, when I realized that getting the visa from Finland would have been infinitely easier than trying to get it from Spain, he helped me with all of the paperwork and the invitation letter and all of the documents that I needed. But speaking of the visa, what a fucking process that was! Firstly, I had a massive, earth-shattering panic attack the day before I had to go and apply for the visa, and I had to leave the house that day. I didn't have a choice, so I had to push through it. Fortunately, I haven't had a panic attack since then, so that's fantastic, but it was awful. Secondly, I'm just going to show you bits and pieces of this TikTok that I made when I was ranting about actually going to get the visa. Today is Thursday, the 13th of June, 2024, and I need to know if you have been having a day, because oh, what a day, and what a time I have had! I have visas to apply for, and people to go see, and places to be. The agency is in Pretoria. I'm in Midrand, Caltrain, like hi, hello. I go all the way to Midrand station, and the fucking trains aren't running because there's a problem with their lines, and they're anticipating a 45-minute delay. So I had to book an Uber from Midrand station to the VFS in Pretoria, which I could have just done from the very beginning. I hand her all of the documents, and she notices that the flight to Finland is for December. I'm not flying to Finland in December. I'm going to Finland in August. Okay, so it was like, that's not right. I look at the paper, it fucking says December. Somehow, some way, I printed a flight from 10 years ago. So I had to go all the way downstairs and print the actual flight, and these people had the audacity to charge me 20 rand for 2 black and white pages. So then I eventually hand her the flight. This woman's not understanding that I'm not flying from Johannesburg to Oulu. I am flying from Johannesburg to Madrid. And then I'm going to stay in Madrid for a little while. And then I'm going to fly from Madrid to Oulu. This woman could not make sense of this. She convinced herself that there was a discrepancy in my itinerary when I can 100% assure you that there is not. Then there was an issue with the way they were handling like the biometric system. Then I had time to kill, so I went to Brooklyn Mall. I was circling around that mall for 25 fucking minutes. This mall has no exits. Don't fucking talk to me about Brooklyn Mall right now. My feet are so fucking sore. I book an Uber to Home Affairs because I have to go and pick up my ID. Except nay, I did not book the Uber to the Centurion Home Affairs. No, I booked it to the Pretoria one. So then I had to change the trip. So the Uber driver dropped me off at Pretoria station. At this point, my feet were fucking killing me. I get on the train eventually. There's a scene on the train because women got on the wrong train and they tried to get off the train, but the doors were already closed. But this does not concern me. It's fine. So anyway, I go to Centurion, I go to Home Affairs, and there's an entire mob of people at the Home Affairs that had been waiting there since 10 o'clock in the morning. But Home Affairs had misplaced their IDs and passports, and they'd been waiting for 4 fucking hours. And Home Affairs still did not know what had happened to their IDs and passports. So I was like, oh dear God, what the fuck have I just walked into? Fortunately, they hadn't lost my ID. My feet were sore. I was tired. At this point, I was convinced that I'm not even going to get my visa in the first place because, oh yes, 2 things I forgot to tell you. While I was trying to make my way into the daylight at Brooklyn Mall, VFS phoned me to interrogate me about why I'm not registered with that trademark organization in South Africa. It's like it says on their website that freelancers don't have to be. And also this woman who could not understand that I'm not flying directly to Finland. She also convinced herself that my friend in Finland did not put his address on his invitation letter. Yes, he fucking did. He did. Okay. Then she convinced herself that he didn't say I can stay with him. Yes, he fucking did. He did. Okay, so on top of the fact that I originally printed out the wrong flight, also that I signed the form in Johannesburg and not Pretoria, that one's on me, but still had to scratch it out, so there's an error on my application form. Also with this woman, and then on top of the fact that I don't think I have enough money in my bank account. So it's like, I'm probably not going to get my visa and I'm going to have to cancel everything and then I'm going to be very sad and very depressed. But anyway, outside of that, it was just a long, exhausting day. Not to mention that there were a ton of issues at work at the time. It felt like my world was slowly crashing down around me. I still had anxiety to deal with. And because of the whole visa experience, I was starting to lose faith that I was ever going to go on this trip. I was so happy when I saw that fucking visa in my passport that I literally had to go puke. I'm not lying about that. I was so happy, I threw up. And the day I got my passport returned to me with my shiny Finland visa in it was the day that I started counting down. Because the thought of not being in this house, in this suburb, in this town, in this city, in this province, in this country, and on this continent was the only thing that was getting me through what was absolutely the worst fucking time of my life. So as this trip started to materialize, I got the idea that I could turn it into content and that I'd upload a weekly, maybe bi-weekly vlog of my time in Europe, but I wanted to start with the preparation or the build-up to my departure. I did a pretty good job of filming every single day, but I never did anything with the footage. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of that now. It's not that interesting, but I don't want it to be a complete waste. The plan is that I'm going to Rosebank Mall to go and do some of the things that I need to do before my trip. Hello and welcome to the Zone at Rosebank. So far I have not accomplished anything except buying an unnecessarily expensive box of cigarettes that I don't even need at this point because I went to go and buy the normal price cigarettes literally 2 minutes after that. Now the plan is just to walk around aimlessly and hope that I find what I'm looking for. I finally got the screen protector on my phone fixed, so there isn't that shitty glare on my front camera anymore. Yay! The panic attacks have stopped. I have made immense progress in that regard, and I actually feel good. And I haven't had to take rescue remedy in a very long time, so I'm like super proud of myself, because it was ruining my life at one point. Like, I just absolutely was not okay. But then I just decided, you know what, fuck that. How am I supposed to go exploring other countries alone if I can't even be in my own home and be okay? Like, I actually feel like a normal person again, which is a very big deal. I might have jumped the gun a little bit. I feel like the journey there is the end.
Approaching Phantom. Attention please. Passengers for OR Tambo International Airport. Please change trains.
And then in almost no time at all, months had become weeks, weeks had become days, days had become hours, hours had become minutes, and before I knew it, I was boarding the plane. And as it took off, I could not stop myself from crying. I'm not sure if they were tears of relief or happiness, but believe me when I tell you, they felt so good. To get to Spain, I had to fly through Amsterdam. By the time I arrived at Schiphol Airport, I really cannot say that name, you're just going to have to pretend I can. I was so tired from not sleeping, from the European heat, from the excitement, from the energy I had expended, from the flight, from realizing that Schiphol Airport is 100% smoke-free now, and I was going to be stuck in that airport for 4 hours without a cigarette, from everything. I was so tired. So even though I tried to film when I got there, I didn't do a very good job of it. I just had a beer that cost me 9 whole entire euros. It's not a pretty sight in rands, is all I'm saying. This trip is gonna be expensive. I have come to the conclusion that the Netherlands smells like grilled cheese because it smelled like grilled cheese 10 years ago and it still smells like grilled cheese now. I don't know why the Netherlands smells like a toasted cheese sandwich. It just does, the whole country, all the time. I need to find my... Ooh, there's a pilot. Hey, I need to find my gate. It really felt good to be back in the Netherlands though, even if at the time it was just briefly. I was just, stopping by. I still felt like I had accomplished something great. This adventure was so different to the two that I had had so many years before because I had embarked on this one all by myself. And that made me feel like a new person. The flight to Madrid was surprisingly short, but I still slept through most of it. And when I landed, I was greeted with the most uncomfortable heat I have ever felt in my life. But touching down in Spain, reuniting with my friend and meeting her family for the first time was truly joyous. I also noticed that the part of Spain that I was in looked uncannily like Johannesburg, so much so that I could barely tell the difference between the two of them, which was fascinating because I did not expect that at all. That first day in Spain, all that mattered to me was taking a shower, drinking beer, and getting a good night's sleep. And that is exactly what we did. I took a shower, we took a walk to the store to go and buy beer, and then I accidentally bought non-alcoholic beer, so that was disappointing. I had dinner, and by 11 p.m. I was so exhausted I physically could not keep my eyes open, and I basically crawled into bed and fell asleep immediately regardless of the heat and the very violent mosquitoes. I am covered in mosquito bites. I don't know if you can see them, but I'm gonna count them now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's the one arm. 14. I think it's just that one on this arm. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I don't see anything. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Did I count that one already? I think I did. No, I didn't. 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. And then there's a couple on my back that I can't really count, and there's also a couple on both of my ass cheeks, which I can count, but I'm not going to. So yeah, I've got like 70 or 80 mosquito bites currently. So this is fun. Seriously, I am still covered in scars from how viciously the Spanish mosquitoes attacked me. And I feel like these scars are gonna be here for a very long time. It's making me look like a junkie and I don't appreciate it. All in all, as much as I hate to, but also have to admit, my time in Spain was really not that interesting. I was there for 3 weeks, and I really did enjoy being there, and I really did have a good time there, but I just didn't get up to all that much while I was there. For the most part, my days were spent working and complaining about the heat, and my nights were spent stargazing and complaining about the mosquitoes. I barely went out, I didn't discover anything, I didn't meet anyone new, I didn't see the sights, I didn't do touristy things, I didn't even go to like bars and stuff like that when I was in Spain. Many things factored into why. Number 1, the town, or rather village that I was staying in, Torrejón del Rey, is very small and there is very little in it. Number 2, the heat was just simply too much to do anything during the day, and going out at night was a little bit more complicated. Number 3, the friend that I went to go and visit in Spain spent almost the entirety of the time that I was with her complaining that she was too tired, or too sick, or too uncomfortable, or in too much pain, or in too much of a mood, or just too lazy to actually do anything with me. Number 4, this was problematic because I did not speak a word of Spanish, and the part of Spain where I was in, very few people speak English, so I needed an escort if I wanted to go out and do anything interesting. From this point onwards, I'm going to refer to this friend as the bitch, because she likes giving people nasty nicknames, and also she is one, as you're about to find out. Now, this is not to say that the bitch never did anything nice for or with me, or that I had a shitty time in Spain. I really enjoyed myself there. I got to explore Guadalajara. I have eaten so much today. It looks like I'm naked. I'm wearing a dress, okay? I have eaten so much today that I have the food sweats. And I also forgot to tell y'all that a bird shat on me while I was at the restaurant, and it was really gross. It was so nasty, and I'm offended. I went to go and watch Deadpool and Wolverine. I am in a queue to watch Deadpool, but it's in Spanish. So this is going to be super interesting because
I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't speak Spanish.
Didn't understand a word of it, but it was still a fantastic movie and I had a lot of fun. I got to stuff myself on really good food. Although I will say the beer in Spain is trash. Like, all of them are trash. Why is the beer in Spain so bad? I mean, I drank it every day anyway because it's beer, but ew. And I had an amazing view of the sky, and there just happened to be a meteor shower happening at the time, and I got full view of it, and it was incredible. I still had a good time in Spain. I mean, I was in Spain exactly as I hoped I would be, and I fully intended to savor every single moment of it. But towards the end of my stay in Spain, I had the crushing and vivid realization that my friend is really not my friend. And while I won't go as far as to say that she's a shitty person, I will say that she is absolutely not the sort of person that I want in my life. For one, as I said, I just didn't really have a good time with her, and she put very little effort into having a good time with me. In fact, at times it felt like she was actively going out of her way to prevent me from doing the things I wanted to do while I was in Spain. She spoke down to me a lot for not understanding how seemingly simple things work in Spain, even though I'm not from Spain and had never been there before. She spent a good amount of time insulting almost everyone and everything that I love and care about. I realized that she is very much a hypocrite in most of the things that she says and does. She loves playing the victim in everything because she can never be wrong. She treats almost everyone around her like shit except her little brother, who she has an uncomfortably close, almost obsessive relationship with. Like, it honestly weirded me out like a lot. And most importantly, a lot of her behavior was a little bit too reminiscent of a particular someone from New Year's Day. But the absolute worst of this was when her mother, who is a very sweet woman, did something so small and insignificant that the bitch didn't like, that she decided to use it as an opportunity to yell at her mother as loudly and as viciously and as rudely as she possibly could. Then she decided that she was in fact the victim in the situation and that she was going to kill herself. So she started counting down the days to her suicide, publicly by the way, on social media, on WhatsApp at least, and also decided that she was going to leave a note blaming her mother so that her mother would know that it was her fault. I need to drink. Now this next part is going to sound incredibly selfish, but I really do not give a fuck. But when she started counting down the days to her suicide, obviously, I tried to comfort her and talk her out of it, even though I knew that it was bullshit all along. But what pissed me off was that the day that she would have gone and done it would have been when I was in Finland. This bitch knew that I was going to Europe to heal my own fucking mental health. And then she decided to dump all of that on me and torment me with it. I don't think I will ever forgive her, and I will never see her the same way again. I honestly 100% believe that she has narcissistic personality disorder, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm just calling it how I personally see it. But of course it was an act, because the day I left for Finland, bitch decided that she was going to live to see another day. Of course. Because now that I was leaving, she couldn't weaponize it against me anymore. She couldn't use it to manipulate me anymore. And also because she was pretending from the very fucking beginning to get attention and pity and to make everything about her. Still, my last night in Spain was a ton of fun. The sky looked beautiful and I spent most of the night looking at it. Because I couldn't sleep. Because I was too excited. Because I was going to Finland! When I tell you that I got so lost at the airport in Madrid that I made it to the gate for my flight with seconds to spare, I am not exaggerating. Can you imagine I missed the fucking flight to Finland? Can you imagine the meltdown I would have had? It was a really smooth flight and it went much faster than I thought it would. As the plane started to descend, I got this really weird feeling that I can't name because I'm not sure I've ever felt it before that moment. It was happiness. And then my face started doing this really weird thing I couldn't control. It was a smile. A stupid one. It looked like this. And then I was shocked by the sheer amount of trees that surround Helsinki-Vantaa airport. See, the first time I was in Finland, I went there in the dark of winter, so I didn't see shit. But in the bright sunlight, it felt like a whole new world, one I had never ever set foot in before, and one that was more beautiful than I ever could have possibly imagined. But seriously, there are just like so many trees. I had to stay in the airport for about 4 hours, so I got something to eat and I drank some beer. I'm using my phone again because I'm too lazy to hold the camera up. Lazy and tired, but I'm in Helsinki airport. I spent money I really shouldn't have on souvenirs and merchandise. And before I knew it, I was boarding the plane to Oulu. On that flight, I saw a really beautiful sundog. I didn't even know that you could see them from planes, so that was incredible. And I also realized the severity of just how many trees there are in Finland. But seriously, the view from the plane was one of the most majestic ones I have ever seen in my life, and I don't think I will ever forget it. I landed in Oulu without a hitch, and then I made my way to a hotel because there was a little bit of confusion, and the day that I booked my flight to Oulu, Ganymede wasn't actually going to be at home, so I had to stay in a hotel for one night. But I didn't mind, I like hotels. Then I went foraging for food in the middle of the night. It was an unsuccessful venture, but it didn't matter because walking alone in the dark of night in the street was so refreshing. It's something I never get to do. It was extremely freeing, and I think that that was like the truest moment when I realized just how far away from home I actually was. Anyway, I slept well in the hotel. There isn't really much to say about that. And then the next morning, after having some breakfast, I started making my way into the city. And that was one of the most random days of my life. I walked around aimlessly for hours. I met a random old man in a bar, and I'm 100% convinced that this man actually legitimately fell in love with me. Then I ended up following this old man to a karaoke bar, the first one I had ever been in. I sang Green Day, Basket Case. At this karaoke bar, I was surrounded by very drunk and very friendly people who were super fascinated by me. I also managed to coax all of the men into admitting that I am married to the whole of Finland, and that they're my husbands.
Hello!
Hello!
Hello! I would just like actual proof that this is my husband. Are you my husband?
I'm your husband.
Yeah! I found another husband. This is Olli. Are you my husband?
Today, maybe.
Question, are you my husband?
Yes, I am. Yes,
Yay!
And I told them all about South Africa, and they seemed extremely confused that I even wanted to go to Finland in the first place. Sorry if the angle has changed. The camera was full and I had to move it to get stuff off of it. Anyway, where was I? I had a really good time at the karaoke bar. Everybody there was so laid back and so friendly, and they really seemed to like me, and by the end of it they were pretty much begging me to stay because we were all having so much fun. But within time, Ganymede messaged me to tell me that he was almost at the station, so I had to leave them and make my way there. And somehow, some way, even though I was navigating by myself, I managed to find my way to the station because y'all don't know my sense of direction. And the reason why you don't know my sense of direction is because I don't fucking have one. So first, I had to collect my luggage that I had dropped off in a locker at the station, and then I realized that my dumbass forgot to ask this man where exactly at the station to meet him. And also my SIM card wasn't working and I didn't have connection to Wi-Fi at the time, so I just followed the wind and hoped for the best. Lo and behold, I went the right way because as I turned the corner, I saw him sitting on the stairs by the station. And I was happy and also relieved that I didn't have to wait in some random spot like a twit with no way to contact this man. Now I just want to take a moment to explain something. The entire time that I had known this man online, I already thought that he was the prettiest man I had ever seen in my life, and I wasn't the only one who thought that. My sister thought that too, but I didn't really make anything of that, obviously. But then I met him in the flesh, and the second this man turned his back to me, I became this.
What?
Because, and I cannot stress enough how much I am not exaggerating, I have never seen anyone that beautiful before in my life. So, the entire walk back to his place, I was trailing behind him like this. Like, literally, I know that it sounds like I'm just being dramatic, but I was literally doing that behind his back. The entire way back to his place, by the way, and that was a long walk. The reasons why I became that shocked little cat pretty much the entire way back to his place was because number one, I was literally stunned. Number two, I didn't know what to do with how beautiful he actually is. And number three, it was constantly dawning on me that I was going to stay in his house for the next 10 days with him. And also his girlfriend, because he has a girlfriend.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I would tell you everything that I got up to in those 10 days, but I kind of lost half of my brain cells. Also, I spent most of that time either drunk or recovering from a variety of hangovers, and if it wasn't that, I was either working or sitting on my ass outside in the sun doing absolutely nothing for hours. Still, it was one of the best and most certainly the most magical time I have ever had in my life, and I mean that. There were many highlights, and I'm just gonna go through a couple of them now. I saw this rainbow, and I saw this sundog, and I saw the circumzenithal arc, and I also saw the Northern Lights for the first time in my life. It had been a lifelong dream of mine to see them, and I finally got to behold them with my very own eyes. And they weren't even that bright because the sky was not that dark, but it was still the most ethereal, numinous thing I have ever witnessed. It was also like extra meaningful because I was absolutely not expecting that particular dream to come true, but it did, and it was absolutely perfect. I saw a wild hedgehog for the first time, and it was really adorable. And I bought these socks, and I bought these sunglasses, and I played drums, and I joined a Finnish band as a joke. And then I blurted out to this man's face that I was very much in love with him and that he was the most perfect thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I got serenaded by a whole bunch of Finns. And then I spent the next day thinking to myself that maybe it was possible that I would become the very first person in history to medically die of embarrassment. And I went to a folk metal gig, and then that folk metal gig turned into a rave. And I sat by a lake, and I watched the sunset, and it was majestic. And I had a truly off-the-grid experience for the first time in my life. And I frolicked in the forest, and I somehow didn't break both of my ankles. And I went into the sauna, and I stood completely naked in the middle of a very dark, very isolated forest. And I skinny dipped in a lake for the first time as well. And then I said more things that I regret. And I went on a rowboat for the first time, and I also rowed a boat for the first time, and I also crashed a boat for the first time. And then it was time for me to leave. So I wrote him a letter confessing and also reiterating all of my feelings because I knew that I could literally run away from the consequences the very next day. So that was fun! So the next leg of my trip was in Vimpeli with a different friend of mine who I will call husband, because I've always called him husband. Now there isn't all that much to tell, but I still had an incredible time. We mostly stayed indoors, to be honest. We day drank, and we made music, and we watched movies, and we played Mario Party, and we took a lot of naps, and we doom scrolled until one of us inevitably found something funny enough to show the other. We went for a couple of walks, mostly to his parents' place to visit his dogs, or as I call them, step dogs. We also went cycling, mostly against my will. and we watched The Room. It was the first time I had ever seen The Room, and I don't think I have ever laughed at anything that hard before.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
And we also did other things, if you know what I mean. We had consistently spoken a lot over the years, so it was really fun meeting him in person. Now we know each other better. A lot better! We have a lot more to talk about, and that's nice. While I was in Vimpeli, I also got a lot of much needed rest. And I also saw the aurora again, and this time they were brighter and a lot more colourful. I also had an incredible view of the sky and the stars because there is almost no light pollution there. And also the one night a frog invaded his home, and it was the most adorable thing I'd ever seen in my life, and this is the reason why I'm now obsessed with frogs, because I would have died for that one, and I wish that I could just put it in my pocket and carry it around with me everywhere that I go, and I miss it. But unfortunately, even though I didn't want to leave Finland, my time there was starting to come to a close. So I had to leave Vimpeli, and I ended up spending 2 nights by myself in a hotel in Vantaa. I spent those 2 days savoring every last moment that I got to spend in Finland, which is my favorite country, as I have established many times before, and also mentally preparing for the next leg of my trip. The one that I was going to spend by myself. Now, I know that I've said this a couple of times in this video, but there really isn't all that much to tell about my time in the Netherlands because I really didn't get up to much while I was there. I went on a lot of walks, way more walks than I usually go on, but that was only to get to the shop that sells cigarettes, which was like 45 minutes away. Other than that, I mostly just kept to myself in the Airbnb. It was just me and the host, and we almost never interacted with each other. And somehow I still know this man better than I care to know him, because he and his girlfriend, who would stop by every now and then, very loud. Another reason why I mostly just stayed in the Airbnb was because I went to the Netherlands to heal. And when I tell you that it worked a little bit better than I anticipated because I fell apart the day I got to the Netherlands, I'm not lying. The day that I got there. I thought that I would at least have like 2 or 3 days to settle into the Netherlands. But nay! That same moment the floodgates opened and they did not close for a week. I literally spent a week of my life ugly crying. Do you even realize how exhausting that is? I cried half of my soul out. I know that people don't like it when we cry on the internet, but like, I just can't hold it in. I've been trying to make this video without crying. It's just not happening. The Netherlands is so special to me because there's something so comforting about the atmosphere here. And feelings that I was too afraid to feel in my own fucking home, 10,000 kilometers away, are actually being processed and digested right now. It's like this country, to me, it's like a weighted blanket. Or a cup of really sweet hot chocolate. Just, I don't know, like a warm hug, because this is years of bullshit that has built up that I literally couldn't fucking process in Johannesburg. Breathe, Kelly. Just breathe. But it was the healthiest catharsis that I have ever had. The moment I returned to the Netherlands, properly this time, not just passing through, was the moment I realized with true clarity how much I was holding on to and how much I needed to address. And like I said, when I was far enough away from everything and everyone, when no one could see me and when no one knew me and where I didn't have to hold back or save face, I could finally start letting it go. I realized how long I'd been pretending to be okay when I wasn't. What happened on New Year's Day traumatized me and had a much bigger impact on my mind, my soul, my spirit than I originally let on. It took a much bigger toll on me than I was willing to admit. I also realized the extent of my loneliness and also my own stupidity. I realized the extent of my burning fucking rage. I sat with my thoughts and my feelings, and I took a good and uncomfortable look at myself. And then I accepted the things that I cannot control, and I managed the things that I can. And I let myself fall to fucking pieces so that I could pick them up and put them back together. And it was painful, and it was difficult, and it was exhausting. But like I said, it was healthy. Also, while I was in the Netherlands, I finally plucked up the courage to do 2 very important things that I had been putting off. Number 1, I told the ex exactly how little I think of him, which was something that I really had to do for the sake of my sense of self-worth. And number 2, I told the bitch that she's a bad friend and a nasty person, and that I didn't want her in my life anymore. And also why. Also, I don't know if the ex ever listened to my voice note, and I don't give a fuck. Some other interesting things happened outside of this. I went on a date with a stranger I found on a dating app. It went well, if you know what I mean. And I also went to the most important place in this whole European adventure. Amsterdam. As much as Finland is my favorite country, Amsterdam is by far my favorite city, and is actually what I'm talking about when I call the Netherlands my home away from home. Going to Amsterdam was the only non-negotiable part of this entire trip. And as I stepped out of the station and beheld it once again, after a very, very long 10 years, I started to feel the little cracks in my soul starting to close up. It was a very intense emotional experience for me. I had worked so hard to go to Europe and to get to Amsterdam. And there I was, in Amsterdam, exactly as I said I would be. Suddenly, I didn't feel so small and weak and powerless. I didn't feel like the person who was so crippled by fear and anxiety and panic that they couldn't get out of bed for most of last year. And I didn't feel like the person who started this year bruised and heartbroken and half-blinded because their piece of shit boyfriend lost their temper when they tried to break up with them. I felt like me. And that was wonderful. And then I met a stranger in a bar and I ended up following him back to his hotel room, and then the next day I learned that emergency contraception cost €17 at Amsterdam Centraal. I did very fucking stupid things on this trip, all in pursuit of feeling alive. Don't you judge me. I have had four earth-shattering, psychologically damaging, disastrous, what the fuck breakups in a row. I have listened to my heart many times, and all it has ever done is lead me to pain. So I stopped thinking with it. And then I started thinking with you instead, but you're just as stupid, aren't you? The last week that I spent in the Netherlands and in Europe was very stressful because I had completely run out of money at this point, and I started panicking because I didn't really know how I was going to get home from the airport when I returned to Johannesburg. But I have the coolest friends in the world, and one of them helped me out of the very sticky situation I found myself in. But also, work wasn't really going too well because I had severe task paralysis. I also got really sick with tonsillitis and ended up in more physical pain than I ever knew was possible, and I lost a lot of sleep over that because I was in so much pain I couldn't get any rest. But it all worked out in the end, and once again, months became weeks, and weeks became days, and days became hours, and hours became minutes, and then I was flying home. The flight back to Johannesburg was a smooth flight, but it was also kind of horrid because of the amount of discomfort I was in. I was still in agony from my tonsils, and I was absolutely shattered with exhaustion from not having slept in 3 days. I never in a million years thought that I would ever say this, but I so desperately wanted to return to Johannesburg. All I wanted to do was just crawl into my own bed, my practically brand new king bed that I only got to sleep in for about 2 weeks before I left for Europe. I wanted to go home where financial strain wasn't an earth-shattering and dangerous crisis. I wanted to be in my own space again where I could sing and play guitar as loud as I like, and where I can see the city lights from my window. And here I am, back home, readjusting to being completely on my own again, to the dry, sweltering Johannesburg heat, and being back in a place where Europe is a faraway dream I don't think I'll ever stop dreaming. I'm considering going to Ireland next, but first and foremost, I desperately need to rest. This adventure that I went on was certainly the most chaotic, emotional, and memorable journey of all my days. And I learned many things on this trip, but I kind of don't want to spoil them because I have every intention of writing about them. But I guess the most important discovery is that things aren't always what they seem. The friend I thought I was going to have the best time with turned out to be kinda hella rotten. The friend I thought I was going to be the most intimidated by turned out to be the one that I was the most comfortable around. A little too comfortable. And the friend I thought would be the most awkward to meet in person turned out to be the one that I got the closest to. Very, very close. And the things I thought I was running away from were actually things I was running towards. And while I'm still picking up the pieces and figuring out the rest, the where to from here, I can honestly say that this trip played out exactly as I hoped it would. Because I found what I was looking for. Myself. And I can honestly say, for the first time in a very, very long time, I'm fine.